So we're live now, so
Okay.
we're not gonna roll it out yet.
Okay.
Let me see here. I got people. Who is this? Okay. All right. Yeah. This is important.
Please, I forgot. It was rude of me. Say hello to your lovely wife for me.
I will tell her.
Yes.
She's right here. Theresa says hello. Okay, we got 14 people in the house. Let's check the sound, and then let me share it through the
I
network.
could go there. Okay.
Okay, it's on.
I could.
Okay, let's see. Wendy Kirkwood's here from Queensland. All right, let me go in here and put it in the group and give people a little bit more time. All right, let's see here.
I think I could invite, when it comes to technology, I'm always the last one. Okay, I think I could share as well too, or invite.
Yeah, you can share. Yeah, you could just click the share button and then all your friends will pop up, or you can share it to pages or groups. Hello, Milana.
Okay.
It's good to see you. Thank you for the wonderful gift. Okay. So we got quite a few people. 31 people in the house.
Hello, everyone.
Keep going. Let me clean my glasses so I can see what the hell's going on here. All right.
Okay, what am I doing here?
Thank you for the honey, Milana. Just had some in my tea. It's very good. All right. So 37 people in the house. Sivanya's here from down in Tasmania. Pia Holland from Denmark. Raquel Toombs, our dear sister from up in Canada, who's been posting for a long time. Brendan from Ontario. Janie Hodges, that was very sweet of me, what you said. And thank you for your continued love, support, and contributions. Allow us to keep doing what we're doing, even if it's by the skin of our teeth. It doesn't matter because we're in the 5D. Okay, let's see. So we have a very special show right now occurring from an old friend of mine. I always say this, one of the earliest contributors to the Soulogy group. One of the first people I saw that was doing videos, among other things. And so we've met in New York City.
Yes.
We've been colleagues, brother and sister for a long, long time. Seen a lot of things changing. And so a couple of things struck me in the telepathy. One was I happened to see a comment. I don't get to see them all, but I happened to see a comment you made on the show yesterday or the day before that you've been breaking down for a couple of weeks, which a lot of people have been going through some extreme stuff. And then you just told me right now, which I didn't know anything about, that you are having a life-changing period. And that is happening a lot.
Yes.
I know a lot of people that are packing up and moving on. It doesn't make sense. They don't even know where they're going. They're getting rid of everything and they're just going. And so that evidently has happened to you now?
Well, it's really interesting how this major shift occurred to me. And I have to tell you, it was a duality because it is affecting every aspect of my life. I can't say that I didn't know it was coming, but we are conditioned and we prolong things and we do things for many different reasons. But as the universe is having it, it's pushing me forward, and I'm putting my house up for sale in New York. Now, there's many reasons behind that. And there's a lot of uncertainty that is transpiring. But the interesting thing is that it took me to a place where I became very human, and my divinity and my faith over the last 2 weeks was very shaken. And I had to go into a period where I had to step back and I had to revisit things that I thought were long put to bed or that I didn't even know were down deep in the core for the divine feminine in me. And I went through a metamorphosis period where I cried for 2 weeks straight, periodically throughout the day. And I was making myself physically sick, where I was getting migraine headaches. And I really had to stop what I was doing and step back, because I'm usually pretty much in control of what's happening to me, but this time I have no control.
That's it right there. That's the wisdom right there.
And I am faced with surrendering to something that is unknown and foreign to me, that is going to take me to places that I have not journeyed by myself. And the thing is that the people around you that know you for a long period of time, they think you are suddenly crazy, because I am detaching. And it's happening very, very methodical in a sense, because it's a process for me, because this was the hardest part to let go of. And as I am detaching and throwing things out and, coming to terms with the many polarities in my own life, I am really giving like way to faith. And last week I was so in the human, because I was like, okay, so we're processing, we're eliminating, we're going through all this. And here I am stuck after all this time. And I'm thinking back and I'm going into the divine feminine. And my daughter was like, why don't we go visit your dad's grave? I know that you're not going to be open to this, but your mom and dad divorced, and I'm sure you're angry with him. And I thought about it for a couple of days, and I'm like, I'm not actually angry with him, and I'm not actually angry at my mother, but I'm disappointed. And I realized that I'm facing a lot of feminine core issues that go back generations, and now they're surfacing in me. I says, because I feel that through the conditioning of generation, I was stuck in this maze that only came to life in the autumn of my life, many years like into having children. And I was a young mother. I was married very young, as you know. And I lived in a sense that, kind of like, especially if you're in your early 50s, which I am now, what happens is that, we lived on that cusp where, you kind of make your bed, you lie in it, you're very like preconditioned to like turn in the cheek, and you do for the family and you sacrifice and all that stuff. And I realized through my mother's divorce, through her probably having her own little breakdown, because I was 2, I was the youngest. My brother was already 10, and he took the brunt of it, and he lived a very wild life, and she was always trying to save him. So my sister and I, we became, grown-ups at a very young age, and we took things over. And we kind of like, if I look back at it now, it kind of almost is like all those steps of generational cycling, and me breaking them now. It kind of put me like in this funk, because now here I am, and we go out, we're advocates, and I'm an advocate because I understand the abyss that we put ourselves in, and I don't have the answer. And I think the hardest part for me was to say, I don't have the answer, because now you have everybody in your ear. You have your kids in your ear. You have, my sister's in my ear. We're close, and like, you should have done this. You could have done this, and blah, 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 et cetera, or so on. And I'm like, yeah, that could have happened, but it didn't. So now I'm telling you, I don't know the answer myself. There you go. Bingo. And it's foreign, it's foreign. It's foreign to me, because I'm like, all right, what do I do here? And I'm surrendering to total faith. And today is a good day for me, because I'm okay today. But I have to tell you, I detached. And I put on Facebook, and I'm very private. I'm a very private person in my personal life. And it's not because I'm hiding anything, but because I have the same problems as everyone else. But it's just something I have to be very comfortable to open up. And I do open up to my small circle, but I put on, I'm asking for a multitude of prayers. I never do that. And then the Divine Mother, which I'm devoted to her, is she kind of like pushed me to go deep. And she was like, well, you said that now, and this is my higher self. And you are a motivational speaker, and you have like come so far. Now you have to really put yourself out there and share the experience with your divine brothers and sisters, because we're all struggling. And now through the stories, how do we uplift each other? Because what people don't know is that I'm very soft. And I might appear very like straightforward when I am doing the work, because that's a passion. And I realize we're on a very big platform. But personally, what people don't know, I cry at a dime of a hat, a drop of a dime. I'm very sensitive to other people's needs. But I realized I was so involved with that I missed a step within inside of me. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, absolutely it does. I mean, on what? There's like 5 or 6. The first thing is I love what you said, and sometimes we say things. I do. I'll say things I don't even know what I'm saying, and then you flip it. So I'm always. I'm not saying this about you. I'm saying this about me and all of us, because I'm always in control, pretty much in control, and now I'm
Yes.
not. So to me, that stands out because I've been saying for a while. I'm getting this message. If it makes sense, if it doesn't make sense, do it. So it's like this thing that counters our chatter, our chatterbox in our head. That counters it is the path. The second thing that you bring up is this universal isolation. We're at a point now where, and it's more and more obvious every day in the work I do. I see it, and in my own life too. Is it's going to be in your face. That universal isolation is going to force you, and it is going to create havoc, chaos, whatever you want to call it, pressure, until you detach from every single thing. Ultimately, it's going to be showing up in the physical, not just the crying, but it's going to show up in the migraines, like you said. It's going to show up. I just tweaked my back. I don't know what that's
Did
about,
you?
but I'm going to find out. Yeah, I just turned in. So it's showing up. I keep not wanting to use the word forced, but it's like we're being forced into that universal isolation, which is that solitude, which is that stillness, which no matter how much we reach out to the external, eventually all those doors are closed and we're by ourselves, and that's where we find our power. I think the other thing that really jumps out too with knowing you, because I totally agree. It's not even what we say, but when we share the experience, we are lighting up the soul code machine in people. We are sharing the purest activations. And I love what you said too about I was so human. I mean, I just talked to Kamara Ford, who's been doing this since like the 80s, man. Like, I mean, going to Mexico and having ceremonies on spontaneous rituals and meeting interdimensional beings, basically. And yet she's still human. Her human is driving this thing. Her human is being honored. And that's what I was getting from you, too. Is like you just was like, okay, I'm honoring the human. The human is not,
I had to. There's a very fine line between the human and the divine. And I realized that. And I'm like, what is this? What does this mean for Theresa? Not Theresa, who's someone's mother, not Theresa, who is the advocate for humanity. Theresa, the woman, the divine feminine in Theresa now, that is stepping out and doesn't know all the.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh-oh, she popped out. Hang on, we're back.
come up? Oh no.
Yeah, you popped out.
Okay,
You
we're
said
back. Okay.
you said you don't think these things are going to.
Come up and affect you the way they
Yeah.
do, especially when you're constantly aware that, you of your shadow self, and you are, doing the inner work, and you're taking these steps in awareness, and then it hits you like lightning, and it did. And
Yeah.
I'm toying with it because I'm like, okay, now how do I speak about it on a broader spectrum? Because I know that people are affected by this, and here we are human having a divine experience, and we are multidimensional people. And as this energy is crystallining in us, where's the next step? And I'm going over this like in my mind and in my heart as I'm feeling a lot of things, and I realize, you know what, I have to put it to bed. I don't know the next step, so why am I killing myself over it? And it's very interesting because today I'm cool. Today I'm all right. I could speak about it. I
Yeah.
detached for the whole week. I always will give my contribution to humanity because that is something that's just in me. But I did it like from a very distant path this week. I wrote, I explained a little bit, and I got off. I hardly took any messages. I did speak to a few people who I could confide in, but even that was very brief. I needed, and I found I was very tired. I was sleeping. Like I get up very early, like I'm up at 5:30, and I'll go through a 10-hour day. But when I got home, I really just wanted to shower and be left alone. And I
Yeah.
found myself like just going into that sleep. And I found myself talking down to myself a little. I had to talk myself down because I started to get like a little anxiety. And I was like, what's happening to me? Like, this is like, I don't operate like this. And then I was like, screw it, universe. This is what you need for me to happen. And I'm surrendering. And that's new to me. Like total surrender. Total
Yeah.
surrender. It's a little new to me because I didn't experience this part of the surrender ever before. And it's like really the unknown. So it's interesting, and I'm like, wow, let me just go one step at a
Yeah.
time, that type of thing.
And it's like affecting all of our aspects of our lives too. It's like you're surrendering how you're going to make money. You're surrendering where you're going to live. You're surrendering. Are you? In other words, the human interactions too has been a big one. I got a couple of notes from people. I'll get a few, but you know, over the last couple of days, and I know what's going on. I can't engage because it just isn't going to get us anywhere. I'm not into prolonged conversations because they're the old method. They're not going to take us anywhere. I feel you, you feel me. Some stuff is your stuff, and some stuff is my stuff, and I honor and respect that. And I'm surrendering. I'm surrendering to that uncomfortable feeling, but it's getting more relaxed and more comfortable each step of the way, which I think is really, like you saying, honoring yourself. If you honor yourself, how can you be hurting anybody?
Yes, exactly.
I mean, how can you hurt anybody if you just honor yourself? And do you have to explain to everybody what you're doing and why? I mean, we're all doing this thing, and
Yes, because it's heavy.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
heavy.
in all capacities. I totally get what you're saying about the physical. I did 3 shows yesterday. They were all different, and they just like sucked the energy out of me. But it wasn't a bad thing. It was just like massive transmissions or something. A
Massive
lot.
energy from different people as we
Yeah,
are collaborating with one another in
yeah,
understanding. And, I also understand where you're coming from because in the Soulogy experience, you are uniting people globally to share a story, and everybody's story is different.
yeah,
And as we do this in understanding, we are learning from each other, and we're also, you know, feeling our own individual challenges, and they are challenges.
Yes, they
And
are.
they're absolutely challenges because, people will offer you a lot of advice and it's most appreciated. But, when people don't understand your true circumstances, it's easier said to done than done. So, for example, I'm a city girl, right? And although I live 20 minutes from the city and I still have a little suburban space, I have access to everything. Now, to be affordable, right? And to live in an area where the nearest store is a half-hour drive from me, that's foreign to me because I'm
Yeah.
used to just having access. And I don't think people really understand that because now this is another part of me having to come to terms with and get used to. Because you have to understand, I'm constantly surrounded by people and family. Now, this, whatever is pushing me away from my demographic area. And that's a little scary, because you're like, holy moly, what do you do?
Yeah.
Like, how do you handle this as I'm honoring the divine feminine, as I'm getting to understand the wounds and how we are taking back our power from the many struggles that we have had to endure, as the divine masculine energy is also coming into play. So there's a lot going on here. And, we serve the collective, but we're still individuals on a journey as well. And it's really very like, I'm like, if I get through this in one piece, this will be like many stories to tell because this is very important. It's very vital. It's vital to who we are, not only as our human vessels, but our multidimensional vessels.
That's
And
right.
yeah, and it's a trip. It really is. And you just sometimes got to say, what gives here. And that was difficult for me because I know that the divine exists, but yet the human in me allowed every part of my being to reject, not in a negative way, but in a way to like, where does it fit in for me? And that was deep because I've never experienced that before. So now how do I work through this in the human and, what happens now? And I realize that I am not only changing conditions that are generational through my own uncomfortability. This is uncomfortable, and the mind plays a role in it. And as the mind and the heart are doing their dance together, and we're taking in all this information that comes to us, what's the next step of the dance? And I don't know
That's
the step of the dance. So it was like I was like in a blackout, and I'd be driving, and all of a sudden the tears would just start pouring, and I was like constantly in the blackout glasses because now I have to interact with people, and like your eyes are all swollen and your nose is all red, and they think you're half of a lunatic, but you're really not a lunatic because you're going through this defragmentation inside to another level. And I was like, wow, I have no control over this. So like I'm surrendering now, but I still get like those moments where I shake in my boots type of a thing, like, and it's happening. So I feel it's important to speak about it, especially choosing to be a motivational speaker and someone who is participating in inspiration and guidance because it shows the very human side to us. Because I think what happens sometimes is that we're so involved with the collective progress that we tend to put ourselves on the back burner, and then we don't
yeah.
share in order for us to heal and to come to say, I need a hand too. It's okay. What's the suggestions? How does your energy, affect mine? And what can we do as we're in session to understand? Because this is a part of energy now that is different for me. And I'm not ashamed to admit that, because
Okay.
I am just on, you know, the learning process of new things like everybody else. Because, when you think you know something, then all of a sudden you realize you know nothing, and then it's another type of a thing that happens. So it's very like, it was very spontaneous. It was very earth shattering, while you're still understanding the goddess principle and Sophia Gaia, because as you know, I affectionately call the goddess Sophia, because I am very much into the Gnostic texts, even more and more. And I use them as a comparison, because what I do is I could see through the text how everything in the elements affect us, how we claim to be on this planet, and how the plumes also extended and multidimensional beings, and how they were created. So here we are on this earth that is plentiful, and the conditioning and the bondage that we have endured, especially the female gender, has been horrific, because it was almost a suffocation of birth, and now to travel back into the abyss and to understand this energy and the consciousness and to let go. It is really understanding the planet in itself. So we're balancing all this, because in the human vessel, that's how we experience the divine on this planet. I have come to realize this, and the human vessel sometimes gets in the way of that. So it's very interesting, because many people have many ways of feeling and seeing and interacting. But what's the common thread? What's the common denominator for the true, pure peace on earth? The love, because it does exist. The love does
Absolutely.
exist, and we're
Absolutely.
finding it more now in the surrender. But we
Yeah.
fought it and we resisted it for so long. I know I put my walls up, and now coming into that feminine side of Theresa, not Theresa the mother, or Theresa the grandmother, or Theresa the businesswoman, or Theresa the feminine goddess who lost herself in the process. Now she's coming into play. She's coming full circle, and that's pushing a lot of things, because we always think we have things under control, right? And then all of a sudden we realize that we don't. But if I learned one thing, I did learn that love does exist, that here we are as human beings, we went through lots of pains and sufferings and sorrows. And, we called ourselves on our own inner workings, our own, nonsense, so to speak. And as we began to heal, and as we're healing and we're understanding this multidimensional universal platform, we realize that love can change everything. And it's really just giving into a given and receiving state that we've conditioned, and the human race has become out of control. And it's a lot. It's a lot for people, because you're so misunderstood in many aspects.
Yeah. Yeah. It's what's coming to me with what you're saying is, the old adage in the Bible and other texts, actually, made in the image of. And as you're talking, and I'm kind of getting all this coming in, it's like our multidimensional aspects, our multidimensionality, our supernatural skills and abilities, our eternal life, whatever you want to, all these things in this human experience can be a distraction. That when the made in the image part isn't about that part, it's about the human part. And when we can actually, I'm just kidding, we see the human as that, the human, not forget about the rest of them, the human part, because we're convinced that the multidimensionality aspects of us and all that stuff is God, goddess, right? But the human part is the part. So you said something about a common denominator, and I think that common denominator is everything that you just expressed in the last 30 minutes so far. The experience itself, the concessions, the not knowing anything, and not knowing where I'm going. It is that surrender and I think that's the common denominator when we can sit there and admit it to ourselves and to each other. That's service. And I think the last thing I picked up from you too is there's an element of serving self in our old paradigm, which is unconscious to us, even to our credit, but it's that service to self that's simultaneous with service to others that we're starting to transition into. And that does mean we have to kind of let go of some stuff that's difficult. And I think that's another common denominator that people have struggled with, especially in these light worker circles.
Oh yeah, because I love my kids and I have a very good relationship with my kids, right? And I realize that, you know, am I doing the right thing? You know, because kids could guilt you, oh, this is not cool, or you can't do that, and you're not living in reality, and all these things. And I'm like, okay, but I'm like, but they have their own lives now, and they're okay, and they're doing their thing, and I'm entitled to do mine. And yes, I understand this. All kinds of things happen, and then I love my girls because with my girls, my son's daughters, this is the opportunity to actually put the change in motion. And I am very lucky in that aspect that, I have a great relationship with them. And my kids don't, they know that like how I roll, and it's good to be able to express and implement and discuss this with the little ones so the little ones don't repeat history.
Yeah.
And those things I had to struggle with, myself. And I'm like, okay, but the universe is pushing you, and now you're entitled, and you want to service humanity on a broader level. And you probably don't know how you're getting there because you realize that as we're shifting in the old paradigm way of doing things, especially as we broadcast, as we get out there, we also have to change a lot of things. So where's my service, and what's going to happen? And do I feel guilty about this? So many things. And I was thinking about all this and coming to terms and, and just like giving more and more into Sophia, and I'm accepting more, and it's struggle. And I think we're afraid to talk about that sometimes as multidimensional spiritual people because we have this image, and I say to myself, yeah, this image of what? Because we're stepping into it, but actually for the image to become the reality of what we want to achieve through pure love, when the human gets in the way and these things are forced and we're faced with it, we have to talk about it. That doesn't mean we're any less multidimensional or spiritual, because then what happens is you get stuck in the maze and you think you're crazy. Well, being a little crazy is not too bad, but
Yeah, crazy is the norm, man. I remember a year and a half ago, maybe a little longer, maybe 2 years ago, when I was first, in the first 50 or 100 shows. I have a pretty good relationship with somebody at the time, and I remember, and they were pretty well known, right? Let's just put it that way. And I remember them wanting to do a show, and we'd done a few, and I said to this person, people already know that part of you. People already know your elevated, aspects coming through. People want to see the human being. And I got pretty radical with them, that person. And they did. And it was a great show, It was a great show. And I think I wasn't even aware of it at the time, but I love what you're saying because look, we know we have more faith in our multidimensional aspects and our link to the galactic and the angelic than we do in the human being made in the image of. And that's what we're actually doing here. Yeah. We're actually converting and transforming with what you said, with that love, transforming from the center of the universe, which is what we are. And it's a physical thing, and it's an emotional thing, it's a mental thing, it's a spiritual thing, it's everything. Nothing's left out. Not one part of us is left out. So I think this is a powerful time It's been a powerful past month. This is a powerful way to start the next month. And I
Yes.
believe this is the vibration that will expand, will be people coming out here. And, like I've said many times, another way of saying I am soul is I'm not afraid to show my ass, and there's nothing wrong with it. You get past the point of embarrassment, and like you said, the walls come down and people see the real person. And that
Yes.
is powerful. That is the
Yes.
mirror people need to see in each other.
Yes, and spirit works in a in an unfashionable way when they want you to like push forward. Because a month ago I would have never wrote, I'm in need of multitude of prayers, or however I put it, or whatever. Because at that moment I was I was in like this zone, and I was like, you know what? That's it. I'm just saying it because this is what happens. People then tend to forget because you're such an inspiration to them that you have a multiple of things going on too, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
we come up here and there's the spirit that comes in us. And like I said, because I have like one of my strongest gift is my mind. I have a lot of mind strength, right? So I'm able at the expense of even myself to extend that hand and help somebody out of that unnatural abyss, right? That's just one of my gifts. That's just how it is. But sometimes at that, I want to call it like almost the bittersweet because we are still human and then things happen to us and it's like, okay, now we have to show this part because this then will help somebody else. Well, this is what do you do? Well, I'm surrendering to the unknown, to be totally honest with you, and it's scary as shit, but through this process I am now giving way to that because I'm going to take it step by step and I'm going to use this intelligence that I have, however it is needed as the opportunity comes up, even if I'm winging it a bit in the process, and I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
put it to use. And I'm going to tell you that, yes, it is scary, but through the strength of one another, we can discuss openly and we can come to solutions. And that's really hard to do, and, but you got to do it because the shadow is there and the
Yeah.
shadow reminds us that the human vessel, as much as the spirit is very strong, sometimes the flesh can be you know weak because you get that
Yeah.
moment of emotions. And I'm like, I'm going to put it out there because it's the truth, and I'm sure if I'm feeling it, many others are feeling it, but it's a very sensitive and delicate thing to talk about. So give me the voice to speak to it on a general basis, and then people put in their elements because betrayal leads to radical change. And what is betrayal? Betrayal has a facet. You're under a huge umbrella. It could be emotional, it could be the trauma from, childhood, it could be sexual, whatever it is a betrayal. So, these emotions that are coming up, we are now learning from these past conditionings, right? This past bondage, and we are coming out of that with radical change. And
Yeah.
that is, we are the pioneers, we are the voice, we are the change, we are the people who are raising one another up as we learn about our natural origins. So it's
Yeah.
very interesting, and
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, and I go back to because it's changed. I was talking to a couple of people about it today. What we were getting on these shows a year ago or 2 years ago, the people, the information was a totally different game, man. Now it's like we've come full circle, and we've established our supernatural, eternal, multidimensional, and it's now right back where we started. The dog chasing its tail found the tail, and it's the human being. Human is the hero. I mean, we
yeah.
are, and I think somebody just said it, Linda Scott, but we are held in the highest regard in this universal family, uh,
Yes.
because we're down here doing the work, and
Oh
and this
God, are
is
we doing the work?
yeah,
Oh, we are.
this is what it takes, though. To me, we always think it's this complex, multifaceted methodology that takes years and years of sitting in a, lotus position. It's as simple as us speaking to each other. Somebody said something the other day on a show, I think yesterday, and we're talking about relationships. And she was relaying a story about her partner and said, he told me he wasn't upset, but I didn't believe him. I don't believe him. And I thought to myself, why don't we believe each other? And how could we believe each other? Well, we could believe each other if everybody just was direct and straightforward,
Yeah.
straight up, just direct, and no BS, no posturing, no nothing, just no agenda. Just, hey, I like this vibration. I don't like this vibration. I like what you said. I don't like what you said. I like this food. I don't like this food. Whatever it is, and then we don't have this issue of having to doubt ourselves. The last thing I wanted to say too, which you hit on and made me realize something that I hadn't realized, and I've never shared it. So I was in the normal life. And in the normal life, I had the chatter of, are you doing the right thing? Are you good enough? Could you have done this better? Should you have done that? And all that stuff that we always all get, the common denominator. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Then I went off onto this journey in October 2016, not knowing what the hell I was going to do, not knowing what was going to happen. And guess what? That voice was still there saying the same thing. So if you're going to do what I got out of it was, if you're going to do something, do what aligns with your heart. Follow that fantasy, follow the fairy tale, because you're still going to get proportionate to where you're at. You're still going to get that same chatter in your head.
Oh, absolutely. That chatter goes on, after I was on, I came on today because I was like, let me come on now and let me explain why I asked for prayers. And I started the process earlier. And, then after I did the video, I still had to, make a run. I still had to go and do a few errands. And, then the voice was coming again. And I was like, again, relating to what you were saying, doing the same thing. They're like, okay, so the voice is still here and this is still happening. Screw it, just let it happen. And I actually told the voice, screw off, like you have to shut you off right now. And the process, allowed me to come to like go into this this awareness, and the awareness was like relating, it's going to be okay, just go, because either way you got to go, either way it's going to happen. And that's how I kind of talked myself down and did my thing. you know this is now. If I have a little bit of a meltdown later, then I'll deal with it as it comes along. I'm not going to deny that. I'm not going to deny the process, and I'm not going to try and make sense out of certain things, because I feel at this point the sense will come when it needs to come. And if it has to be utterly senseless for a while, that's it. And it was interesting because I did tell my daughter as we were texting, um, at one point this week, because we always call and we always FaceTime but I text her and I was like, I'm not taking any FaceTime calls and I'm not taking any calls because I'm in a period where my mental status needs to readjust. And I don't hear anybody putting any situation down or coming to the conclusion of the story because I don't have the frame of mind for it. And I really, after I did that, it was almost like a relief, because it was like, this is where it's at. I don't friggin' know the answer. Because, like sometimes your kids grill you. Well, what do you think about this? And this is what you have to do. Because, at that point, that's when your children become your parent. They become the parent because now they know the whole layout. But they don't, because they only know the mom aspect of it. They don't know what the woman is feeling. So that was very interesting, and we quickly resolved that and we reset, but it actually brought a new tone of respect back into, our this current situation, because we were starting to pick on one another, because it was getting to the point, well, what are you going to do, Mom? And this is it. And how does this happen to a woman that's so professional, and now you go from this to that, and etc., so on, and you don't want to hear it, because it's like you don't even understand half the sacrifices or what a mother does. for their children. And now we're adults, right? So even if it didn't make sense then, it might make less sense now, but we're riding this journey and this is how it's going. So that's very interesting too, And
Yeah, that jives. That jives with what I was saying earlier in having these interactions. And I don't talk to a lot of people just because I work a lot, and look, everybody here, it's for everybody. It's work just processing this stuff, staying connected to this stuff, getting past the doubts, dealing with the two voices, the one that doesn't really talk a language and the one that's in your fucking head all the time.
Yes.
So that's a lot of work. And then if you have a vocation or you have a passion or whatever you do, and I mean, it's a lot of work. But I've gotten to the point where, look, I mean, the less said to me, the more pure it is. I mean, Morgan and I can sit in a room, we can go for a walk, we might say a word for 15 minutes, for an hour, nothing changes, and
Right.
nothing changes, and it's just coming back to the human, to me. I don't mean coming back like philosophically. I mean,
I think it's
we're
activation.
right back where we started,
Mind, body, and soul, what you and Morgan have acclimated with one another, and that acclimation that happens, there's that nonverbal communication where the coexistence is there. And yeah, I agree there, and that's a good thing to be able to share that with someone because they understand you, the being, and vice versa,
And I think but I think it's the same for everyone. I think maybe it starts with these, what we might call intimate or romantic or personal or whatever you want to call them, relationships. But I think it's where we're headed. I'm just finding in my own flow, and I'm not saying I got anything figured out because I don't, but I'm seeing that when like you said earlier, I'm honoring myself. I can't hurt anybody when I'm honoring myself. I'm really kind of minding my own energetic business and just honoring myself. And that would include Morgan. That would include anyone. And that's a full-time job. And that's what I think we've come to, is we've come through all this information the last few years and all this stuff people are getting, and that's all perfect, and it got us to where we needed to be. And now we're right back where we started, looking in the mirror, looking at ourselves and saying, are you God? Are you a goddess? Can you are you eternal?
With this energy in our human? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree. So I guess, like as it's unfolding, I will share more. And because sometimes people want to know every single detail, and I don't think that's necessary. But I think the broader spectrum to have the general consensus, discuss of what people feel emotionally is really the meats and potatoes, because you don't have to know, every little thing that goes on. If a person is in pain, pain is pain, or change is change, a challenge is a challenge. People should be able to articulate in a way that's most comfortable for them. But by no means should we think that we're ever escaping anything, because I tell you one thing, as you're evolving, you're not escaping anything, but you can let go and you can let your natural self begin to show and blossom in a way that it's very peaceful, and in a way that you can interchange, and you could, you could give back and you could receive. And I think that's very important.
I love it. I love this. We got to keep this one going. We got to do another one in a few days or a week and a half, 2 weeks. Once we get back to stabilizing scheduling again. This is the right vibration. Yeah, I've been saying for a long time, Todd and Dean Soldier One Studios reporting from the front line of the apocalypse. But I feel now, I feel like now we should be saying, I should be saying reporting from the front line of the resurrection.
Yeah.
Because that's
a good
that's
thing,
what I'm
because we are
seeing.
resurrected. The human is resurrecting now.
Yeah.
The human is resurrecting, and it's very interesting. And when this broadcast finish, I'll shut the computer off tonight. And even though my phone makes it look like that I'm on, because I just keep the app open or whatever, I will then go into sacred space and I will just be, and I will, I will ride whatever needs to be written out, or maybe the human, or maybe I'll read a little bit, or maybe I'll meditate in my own way, but I will shut the electronics off to let the guidance come in and to heal me, so to speak, to give me strength, to assist me along, And there was a time that I would have maybe put that to the side because I would get like 100 messages, and I would be like, well, this is more important, and you put yourself on hold. But I realized that that's not a good thing
Can't
to
do
do.
that.
That's not a
We
good
can't
thing
do
to
that
do.
anymore, man.
And
We
I
can't do that
won't,
anymore.
Yeah.
I'm seeing example after example of people who are still distracting themselves with attending to everybody but themselves, and I'm telling you, the universe is getting the message to them across by whatever means necessary, more and more in a more enhanced way every single day. And I'm watching some pain here. And
Yeah.
and this is row your boat. Everybody's got to row their own boat. And that's another thing about the flip side of it is, we've got to do for others as we're honoring ourselves, we've got to let them do the same thing.
Yes,
The tough
absolutely.
love or whatever you want to call it, So
Yes, there is
this
boundaries.
is
Yes, it
this
is
is
definitely.
this has been a fantastic freaking show.
Thank you.
I look
It's been a
forward
pleasure. Thank
to,
you.
this is a powerful day, very
Okay.
powerful day. It's very enjoyable so far today. I really enjoyed this.
Today was a
Thank
good day. I
you.
have to honestly tell y'all out there, today's a good day for me because it's an acceptance kind of a day for me, and it's a day where I finally have peace within the heart, mind, and soul. Because for the last, I'm going to say 2 weeks, well, the last 2 weeks, but really the last week and a half, it was very rough. So to share this and to be able to speak about it without crying or without, getting too emotional where we're off the frequency has been wonderful, because I do believe in humanity, and I do believe in love, and I do believe in peace. And yes, sometimes I bring up very controversial issues, and I know that shocks people, but I also believe that the human vessel has to be aware, because we are the ones that will inhabit the earth in the way it's meant to be. And sometimes that's not always pretty, but with unity and love and respect, we can make it beautiful again. And I'm on that path. And I don't know how the hell I'm getting there for the girl and the woman who was in control of everything, she's
Yeah.
letting go of a lot of things. But I do believe in humanity and the multidimensional aspect of self that allows us to prosper, even through the abyss. So that's
Hell,
something that, you know, can't be done without an army of people interacting and sharing. And that's what we do. And that's what you do in Soulogy. And despite our individual paths that lead us to all take different directions, I will always acknowledge and say, even throughout my lives, Todd Medina has brought a multitude of people with individual experience together to share, so others could sort out and use discernment as we are inhabiting this planet. And yes, we're all going to make people along the way where our frequencies are different, and our paths don't fully interact, but there is a common denominator when we are coming together to raise up our
yeah.
voices, to speak, and to change this earth.
I can't add anything to that. Hell. Yeah, I'm speechless and I'm a talker. I love you.
I love you
I'll see you
too.
later.
Peace,
We'll do it
honor, and
again. We'll do it
respect.
again soon.
Love to your beautiful
Yes.
wife. Peace out. Peace out,
Yeah.
everybody.
We'll do it
Bye
again
bye.
soon. Okay. Talk to you
Yes.
later.
Bye bye.
Thank you.